Welcome to the Holeshot Hustle, the podcast where grit meets glory. Today we are super thrilled to have Todd and River Shakespeare. River, a 17-year-old motocross racer with an incredible story. A true miracle baby, River came into this world fiery and determined. Born several weeks premature after doctors told his parents they couldn't have kids, now he's chasing his motocross dreams, battling for the top spot in his class, and setting his sights for Loretta Lynn and a pro motocross career.
We'll dive into River's journey and hear how Todd views motocross as the ultimate teacher for life and explore the bond that fuels their success. You ready to hit the throttle, Logan?
Let's go!
Thanks for being here with us tonight, you guys. Hey, Todd, why don't you give us a little family bio? You've actually got a couple other kids, don't you?
Yeah, I've got two other kids. One's 28 and one's 26 now. We had those two, and then for years we couldn't have a kid.
Pull that up closer to
We'd
you.
actually gone and even gone as far as going to the doctor, and they said, oh, no, you can't have any more.
Oh, really?
And we didn't want to go the in vitro because it got so expensive, but we thought, we got a boy and a girl, and that's good. And so we quit. And in fact, the doctor told us it'd be a miracle if you had another kid, if she could get pregnant, because she had complications with our second kid. And so 9 years after having that one, my wife said, gosh, if I didn't know better, I think I was pregnant. And I was like, wow, that's not possible. Well, here comes River 9 years later.
Wow.
So I'm old. I'm 57, and River's just turned 17. So,
And I feel I usually feel like I'm one of the older ones down there, because most of the guys we see down there are in their their 30s, maybe cracking 40, and
yeah,
I'm going to be 50 in a year or two. So
yeah, I definitely feel like people are probably saying, "Oh, River, is that your grandpa?"
Right.
I think he's got that question before.
You've gotten that before, I think.
Yeah, I've got it before. I'm good with it. Okay.
Well, how did you guys feel about that? Like,
oh, we're excited. He was a miracle in our lives, and we're glad to have him. We knew he was special from that point. He came out with red hair, and so we knew something was going to be different. And so, it's been a good ride, a wild ride, but it's been good so far.
So yeah, the red hair. So your Instagram is Lil Gingy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my main. And then my racing account's Redhead Racing.
Redhead Racing, right?
Yeah.
So does the red hair run in your family anywhere?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen it in any close family. It's all just probably just somewhere in the line.
Yeah, my beard before it turned gray, it used to grow in a little bit reddish, but now River's our only real red, and his is kind of more of an auburn red. He doesn't have the red type skin stuff.
Yeah, like true.
But he's got the red head attitude. I know that.
And how was he as a kid? I know for me, being a little bit older when my kids came into the picture, it's been nice. I've had a better ride, I think, than people that have their, the kids that come to a 20-something-year-old dad. I had my kids a little later, and I had a little bit more means, and I had a little bit more flexibility. And how was that?
Yeah, for sure. And I was much more patient with him than my older ones. I'd learned, made mistakes there and learned better with him. But
is that true? He's more patient?
I think so. I don't know. I wasn't around to see how he treated them, but
so I still get on him, but I'm much more patient with him than I was with the others. But he's the kind that will just that in his nature check the fence. I always say he checks the fence every day. He goes and looks for a hole every day. He checks it to make sure there's not a hole he can escape. So
is that right?
That's just what he does. That's how River is. So, but we've learned to live with it. It's been good. It's been fun. River's been we haven't done moto that much.
You may want to spit out your gum.
yeah.
But we haven't always rode moto and done, but he's always liked dirt bike. River could ride a pedal bike when he was like 3. He could full on ride, never had training wheels, went right straight to a pedal bike. And then we got his first little motorcycle when he was, I think he was probably about 5 or 6. We got a little 50. And he really couldn't ride it at that point. He couldn't hardly balance it and stuff. But
Was this a 2-stroke or a 4-stroke?
A little 4-stroke, a little CRF 50, and it was just kind of heavy, when he was a little kid. Yeah. He was small. River was born premature, so he was born 10 weeks early.
Oh, wow.
And so he was 3 pounds when he was born, so it took him a few years to even, he's still, fairly small, but we're small people, but he was small growing up through his teen years. But he loved to ride. He rode that bike to death. We had it till just a couple of years ago, but he trashed it. And then he got a little CRF 100, and when he was, I think, for like your 12th birthday, I think, or something like that.
I don't remember.
Yeah, he got it for a birthday. I can't remember which one. Yeah, he rode it a lot and trashed it. We still actually have it. I've kept it fixed up enough that it'll run.
Barely.
Barely runs.
But I think it's a new motor. It's dying for sure.
But that was so he's always rode bikes and liked motorcycles, but never really thought of racing. In fact, my wife is an ER nurse, and so she doesn't really love the fact that he wants to race. Because, working in the ER, you get people coming in from accidents.
Really? Because she seems absolutely like...
Yeah,
she's grown on it more. It's grown on her, but she used to try to fight me from going racing, but
yeah, it was he just liked to ride and just rode and really never got hurt or anything. But when she'd see those accidents come in, most of those were 4-wheeler accidents, but kids really hurt. Mm-hmm. It worried her, and so she was pretty hesitant when he first wanted to start racing. She really didn't want him to do it, but now she's probably more about pushing it than I am. I'm just like, hey, let's just do it for fun, and she's more like, no, let's go be competitive.
Yeah, you've expressed, and I've seen it as I've been associated with you guys, that you guys definitely have different points of view. So since Crystal isn't here, River, why don't you sum up the differences as you see it between mom and dad? What are their strengths and their weaknesses as it pertains to moto parents, would you say?
I'd say like my mom's more like if I'm going to do something, it's more like, she wants me to have the best opportunity at it. And, like even if I don't say, oh, I want to go to Loretta's, she'll be like, oh, well, we should go to Loretta's because, it's a great opportunity to do while you're racing. And more with my dad is like, well, if you want to go to Loretta's, you got to put the work in. And I'm not going to, sacrifice and go there. It's more I have to show I want to go instead of just, say something about it, or
instead of just do it for the experience. Like let's have a point about it, kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you and I talked earlier today about the fact that in this whole thing, I'm using moto as a way to teach River about some life skills, and I think there's a lot to be learned in this, that kids can really learn a lot of life skills there. But one of the main things I want him to do is learn that everything that's of value takes hard work. Nobody gets anything for free, and if we can teach that through moto, I'm all for it. But if we can't do that, then I'm ready to get him to get a job or help him pay for this moto.
How old are you now?
I'm 17 right now.
17, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, they're definitely, just speaking for myself, you are kind of in that window where I as a moto dad, like looking at Logan, I've kind of mapped it out in my mind. I'm like, well, okay, he's still pretty young, but I've always kind of felt like, like 16, 17, like, all right, we may need to hit the eject button and start to move you into a trade or, college or something, but, So I hear what you're saying on that, but so you kind of started later then. Well, how old were you when you started riding?
Well, I started like riding when I would say 8-ish. Okay. I've been riding dirt bikes. I've rode pedal bikes since the time I could move, but just riding dirt bikes, I'd say around 8, and then taking it serious, and started racing, I'd say like
15.
Yeah, 15 or so.
And you kind of got into the desert racing scene first, right?
Yeah, I had
How did you get into that?
I had a friend who desert raced. I always just liked riding with him and stuff like that, but he told me that he raced and stuff, and he invited me to like go ride all the time. And I remember one time I went down to Warner Valley with him and his dad, and they were saying something about, I was on a CRF 100 riding with those kids on a, full-on race bike, staying right up with them. So his dad was saying I should come race with Jordan. That's his name, his kid's name. And so I went to my first race and did pretty good for my first race ever. So I think we moved on to YZ then.
Yeah, you raced that on a little.
Yeah, I was on a YZ at that point, a little YZ 85. It was like a 2000 YZ 85. It was pretty old. Ball tire, went to the race. And yeah, I was doing pretty good. I don't know, like top 10 for first race.
Nice.
Until my bike blew up. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it blew up. So I was like, sparked an interest in me and wanted to do it more. So I think we sold that right after at YZ and got a newer one.
Do you remember where you were at or what race series you were racing?
Yeah, it was a works race here in Cedar.
Oh, okay.
And out at Oasis.
Okay.
Yeah, we didn't even know about the race until.
Is that where that guy got really hurt?
Yeah, that was the one.
Yeah.
So the next day was the Sunday race, and he got hurt.
Oh.
So the Saturday race, well, actually, Friday night, Nate, who's Jordan's dad, called us up and said, "Hey, does River want to race tomorrow?" And I was like, "I don't know, maybe." And so I asked him. He's like, "Yeah, I'll race." But like I say, he had a bald back tire. It was like bald. Luckily, the front tire was decent, so I'd rather have a bald back than front. But he raced it and he loved it, and he was doing really good in the race. And then, like I say, it was a timed race, so it was for like 40 minutes, and it had like 8 minutes left. And he blew it up.
Are you trying to give us a sound effect there or what?
Hey, if you got the equipment, you got to do it.
All right. Enough of that. All right. Where were we? Sorry about that.
I think we're talking about his very first race.
Oh, that's right.
So, but it was a fun race. Blew up his bike, but we rebuilt the top end and then sold it just because we wanted something a little newer. Got a little KX 112.
Yeah.
And then he desert raced it out in Panaca with that same friend one time. I didn't go to that race, but he did. I think he ended up finishing like 4th or 5th.
Panaca, would that have been MRAN?
Yeah, it was the MRAN race. The
Okay.
first time he'd ever been introduced to a desert race.
Yeah, I think that's what I started out as. I never really did any, like, the more known, like the Umora or anything. I didn't start off with that. I think I just started with Moran because that's what I was just introduced to.
Yeah, and even though it's in Nevada, most of the races are pretty close to us.
Yeah.
Closer than most of the Umora races.
Gotcha.
A lot of them are just across the border there in Panaca. And
Right.
so, but he raced that race, and then
So this was a KX 85?
a little KX
112. So it's like
The
the
112,
board out.
okay.
I think it was the
85.
first year they made the 112.
Nice.
And we just jumped right to it, and he was probably racing against the 85s, but with the 112. But
Right.
they really didn't separate them out, super minis from that. But that little bike, it was a fun little bike, wasn't it?
Yeah,
We loved it.
it was pretty fast.
Yeah,
It's a fast little bike.
And then I think after we raced that one, and then we went to the next race was on Halloween. That's the first time I went to a race, and it was he was there, and that's when we met the Pulsifers. That's they're kind of the reason that we're in racing right now, is because we met them. We camped right next to them, and they had a son that's the same age as River, and he was fast. So he was
super
riding,
fast.
Yeah, he was riding the expert class, and he was just blowing everybody off.
Yeah, expert class mini, and he was way ahead of everybody. And then he also rode in the big bike class too. He did both.
Make sure your mic's cutting out a little bit, Todd, so make sure you kind of lean into that thing when you're talking.
Yeah, sounds better.
So what year was this then?
Let's see, that'd been 2023? The end of 22 is when that was.
So that would have been the year that we met you guys. So
Yeah, so in between, or right after those races, I can't remember when the Iron Mine was open.
I think it would have been before Halloween because we had finished the
Yeah,
RMX series. He just got back from Loretta's. We finished 2 races with the RMX series, and then I think that
I think it was, it was
that
before
was sandwiched in between the summer series and then the winter series.
Yeah, so it might have been that we did that one in between. We just same people said, hey, you want to go out there? So we went out there. We rode a practice day, which was probably the day before. Back then I didn't even know the format. And then we went and signed him up, and he raced that race. That's where we met you guys.
Right.
You probably don't remember as much as we do, but I remember because River's on the track, and River's like 15, and he was going around the track, and I thought he was pretty good. And all of a sudden, this little kid comes on there. I'm like, I think he was riding a 65.
I think he raced both, didn't he?
I think you rode them both that day, but
I think it was mainly my 65, then I rode my 85 like twice.
Yeah, I think he raced them both.
Yeah, I remember that little bike. He just flew on that track. I was like, what the? And then I realized we're in a different class when you go to the moto races. But
yeah, dude, I remember you guys coming up, and you know, you were like, I remember you asked us, where do you ride around here?
Yeah,
and I was like, we don't. You know, is there somewhere to ride around here? Like that was kind of what I was thinking. Do you guys ride around here?
Yeah.
I didn't even know there was a community of people that rode in Cedar City because there's no real great places to do it. Everything's closed, you know.
You always have to like drive to Mesquite or
so
in Salt Lake.
That was our life. You know, when you asked us that question, I was thinking, well, you know, we have to drive hours, follow the RMX series to get to a decent track or whatever we got to do. There's just nothing around here. Mm-hmm. I sure wish there was more available to dirt bikers around here. I
do too.
I wish somebody would buy the Iron Mine that would do something with it. I wish they would operate it. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that whole thing. Do you guys know? Do you guys have
I know one. It's like partially owned by two people. So one person like owns like half of it, and the other person owns the other half. And the one person's like, yeah, I'm up for selling it, but the other person's asking like way, way, way too much. They don't want to let go of it, so they're trying to make money out of it.
It is extremely expensive. I actually looked into it. I thought, because I found it must have been an old ad before, like maybe pre-COVID or something. There was no date on it, but it must have been several years old because I think they wanted between $500,000 and $600,000 for it. And I thought, I might be able to swing that. I might be able to actually figure out a way to get that done. You know, maybe I'll sell my house. Maybe I'll see if I could
buy the track,
something on it, and, you know, build my house on it or just live in a trailer on it or something. But, you know, that's always been a dream of mine. Like a lot of parents, like maybe I could actually have a track where, you know, Logan could just ride right out of our garage and hit the track and get that seat time in, and maybe I could actually operate it as a functioning track here and there, and, you know, try and nobody makes money with a track, but at least I could maybe pay for the water and you know, let the community come and ride at it. But it was into the millions when I looked at it, and I was like, oh, these post-COVID prices, it has obviously gone up in value. So
that was a cool little track, though.
Yeah, that was a fun
track.
Yeah, it's had some history, you know, prior to before you guys even rode it, you know, and there was a girl killed out there.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so that kind of why it shut down years ago, and then it rebought. You know, so it's struggled being open, and I thought maybe this one, the two partners were going to have it and keep it, but I just don't think they agreed on how it should be ran. Mm. And then the one owner, his kid who was racing quite a bit, ended up breaking like both of his ankles, and that kind of shut them out. So he ended up selling. So that, as far as I know, it's only owned by one guy right now, but he wants so much money for it.
Yeah, I thought the St. George guy was out.
Yeah.
And it was only one guy.
Yeah, so Shane, who I've talked to personally, he's out. That guy bought him out, so his share's gone. And they've kind of just dropped out. I see his son once in a while down at the track in Mesquite, but he's usually not racing anymore. He's just hanging out down there.
Yeah.
Owen, but it would be great, like you said, for the community here in Cedar, because there's a lot more people that, as I've, you know, we've only been at 2 years, but I've found a lot more people than you'd think who really would like to maybe get into it, but there's really no opportunity without being willing to travel to Mesquite. That's really our closest thing, which is not terrible, but if all summer long, if you could go out on, you know, once or twice a week and ride a little track here in Cedar, it would draw a lot more people. And you know, like I just try to find places for River. You and I had gone out to the Parowan one, which hadn't been maintained well, and that would even be great, but just really nothing good here right now.
Yeah.
Maybe in the future. Maybe Logan will put something together.
Man, I hope somebody does something here. You know, when Logan's first race ever was at SGMX, and that was his first race ever. And then they closed it.
Yeah, like
immediately
right after
after.
that.
That was like the last RMX race there, and then they closed it due to the development that's going on out there, and that sucked.
I just remember like little memories of it, and it was a really cool track. Like, got some big tabletops, little doubles, little hill, like jump off. It was fun.
The old track out south of town, they've bulldozed that and developed that now.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, there's just nothing here. There's a couple guys that have their own little things on their property, but I've even talked to them, but the liability is so huge for them, and to let you come right on their property. I asked the one guy who his son actually kind of trained some people, but he says, I'm not worried about you suing me. He says, but what happens is if you come out here and your kid gets hurt and ends up in the hospital, then the insurance company says, well, where was he riding? And if they find out it's on somebody else's property, they'll go after him.
right.
And so he's like, I know you wouldn't come after me, but your insurance company might, so I really can't let you ride. So I get it. I'd be the same way.
It'd be nice if the city or something or the county actually got involved to try to mitigate that, and that'd be a little bit tougher maybe to sue by a company like that or something. But I know a lot of the people around here don't like the free riding that goes on. But like, if you don't want that to happen, make a place for them to be. It's the same with skateboarding.
Exactly.
If you don't want the kids grinding on your rails at your mall or whatever, you build a skate park.
Yeah, I remember when the kids used to always go up there by Lynn's and stuff and skateboard on the handrails there.
Yeah.
And people threw a fit about it. And then the city went and put our skate park in down here. And the majority of them are there now. And it's not, skateboarding is not a big problem in Cedar.
Right.
But those kids are there. And if they build a track somewhere that people don't want to, away from town, I guarantee them that most of these kids would go there.
Yeah.
They're not going to ride just in their backyard or some other guy's field.
Especially track snobs like this guy, if they were prepping it and had nice jumps that were all faced and it was chocolate cake with great ruts, right? He's a track snob.
I like fresh tracks. They're just so smooth.
Yeah.
Because then you so smooth every time you get through a corner, then you can actually hit the jump without the jump getting kickers in it.
Yeah.
Have you become a track snob yourself now?
Yeah, a little bit.
A little bit.
Yeah, I've kind of grown out of the desert thing, so now I'm just a track snob and little brat.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. If you like jumping, I think a nice prep track with some nice jumps is your thing. I know that's what he likes about it. He likes hitting,
especially that
jumps.
middle table at Mesquite. That sends you high.
Yeah.
Yeah, River had a pretty good get off on that one.
Yeah.
Oh, did you? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think it was like a Sunday. I was riding the track all day and hitting this jump fine, and then I think I popped a tire. So we went back and changed it, and it was a slightly different sprocket. So it was 52
Yeah,
tooth?
it just jumped up one tooth.
Yeah. So I switched to that. And I was just noticing I was shifting way more, so on that jump, I was just in a weird gear. And so I, tried to shift up right before it because I just wasn't quite getting enough speed. So I shifted up right before I hit the jump. And then right when I got on the face of that, it downshifted on me, makeshift neutral, threw it down a gear, and it sent me front and down, coming off this huge jump.
Oh no!
Luckily, I don't know how, but I landed somewhat okay. So I landed on my bars, didn't go over, but landed on my bars pretty hard and just kind of fell and rolled. But I knocked the breath out of me and hurt my legs pretty good, but nothing broken or torn. So it was just a couple of days and I was better. So.
And your mom says since then, no more Sunday riding. Is that right?
No more Sunday riding.
That's been his decision. He's like, I don't know, maybe there's some bad juju there.
Yeah. Because if I've gotten hurt at the track, it's been on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I won't deny I'm not active, in our church like you guys are, but I still think haven't been raised around it. There's still in the back of my mind Like maybe something that says, "Well, the protection's off today." I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. No, it's been a fun ride though. We've only been, like I say, we're only 2 years into this, and so most of the people that we see at the track are just like, they've been lifers. These kids that River's riding with, they've been 8, 9, 5 years old when they start, and so they're way more experienced than we are. We're still just trying to learn it, but it's fun.
You've made a heck of a lot of progress. I mean, you're right there. You're competing for first.
Yeah. I've pushed for it.
That's awesome.
River, what do you think your favorite track might be?
I don't know. I don't really have like a favorite track. I like a lot of different tracks for a lot of different reasons. Like, I mean, I've been to Glen Helen and Fox Raceway. I love Fox for the jumps. Jumps there are huge and they're nice. Big, I love the jumps there. They're awesome. And then Glen Helen's just a fun track because it's like all sand.
Fast paced.
It's super fast. It's a fast track. Jumps there are pretty big, but they're not very like defined jumps.
Yeah, they do look a little mushy. Yeah. I've never been there, but I saw.
Yeah, it just looks like someone like threw piles of sand on the track and called it a jump.
Right.
But yeah, I mean they work. That's a fun track.
Anything's a jump if you hit it fast enough.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I like Mesquite a lot just because of how gnarly it gets. I mean, it's a great thing to train, and it's not always the funnest thing to ride, but it's a great thing to get you better at ruts. I mean, if you can ride Mesquite ruts, you can ride any ruts.
I think the thing about Mesquite that everybody expresses is everybody is so excited to finally get back to Mesquite.
Yeah.
But everybody is like so ready to leave when it's time to hit the summer street.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically you ride it from October till April straight with not very much in between, and then you're gone. You don't get to come back until the next October, so you're really looking forward to get back here to the warm weather stuff, but then it doesn't take you long. You're like, okay, need some more variety.
Yeah.
It's always nice when they change an element. I mean, the racers, I don't know about you, but mine sometimes complains a little bit when they change something, but to me it's like a nice thing when they change something because like, okay, we're still the same track, but it is something different.
Yeah.
I wish they'd send the gravity cavity the old way.
Yeah. Like the gravity
did they have it
did they have the other way? Yeah. See, I didn't ride the track when.
So
that way.
When we got in 2019, that used to be a big thing for the 65s is to finally clear that step up going the other way.
So I finally built up the confidence like to start hitting it. And then I started hitting it a lot, got some video. And then next weekend there was a race. And then all of a sudden they changed it. I'm like, no, because I never got to hit it in a race.
Yeah, he hit it. He finally got the courage to hit it at practice. We just got him an 85. And he got the courage on the 85. His first day out on the 85, he sent it. And we're like, oh, that's cool, And then he went and got on his 65. He's like, I think I can hit it on my 60. And then he sent it, no problem. He just needed that little boost of courage from a faster bike. And then, the very next week, they were sending it the other way. And it just isn't, you don't get quite the hang time, So,
yeah.
But, it'd be cool if they sent it the other way. I don't know why they stopped. It seems like we used to see some gnarly crashes when it was going the other way, but I swear I've seen just as many the way it is now.
Like Rai when he broke his femur off it, like that was pretty bad.
That was sad. Miss Rai. Hope he's doing okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fun. We've really loved that track, just mostly because of the fact that we can pull our trailer there and we spend the weekends there. It's cold, snowy here in Cedar. You go down there and you're in your t-shirt. It's awesome.
Yeah.
We've loved it.
I like that.
Gary's got a good thing going. Good on RMX. I mean, with the development that they've done to add in the powered spots, and they've really made some serious improvements. I did speak to Gary earlier this summer when we were at Mountain West, and he was talking about possibly trying to work out so it would be open all year, which we would love.
Yes.
That was our ace in the hole when Logan started racing. Mesquite was owned by the previous owners, and they would stay open year round. And so we'd get there at like 6 a.m. and like right when they opened, and would just put in 2 or 3 good hours and then get out before it just got so stinking hot. But that was a nice track to ride, just because there wasn't anything around here. So I hope he does that. That would be rad.
Yeah,
cool.
I actually talked to Riley just the other day when I was down there, and they're not going to do arena cross this year.
Oh, really?
And he says they're actually looking at doing something where they've got that Supercross practice track right there now.
Yeah.
They're putting something together right there. He thinks that, that if they added that element to there. So maybe, I don't know when he would do that. Maybe next year. I'm guessing it might be too late this year to do it.
Yeah.
River, what's been like your toughest race so far, and how did you handle it?
I'd say, desert racing is definitely been the toughest. I mean, this moto stuff is, I'd say it's easy, but hard in its way. But yeah, my hardest race was Cherry Creek. It's a desert race out
in Cherry Creek.
Yeah, in Cherry Creek, up near Salt Lake. Yeah, it was like a 90-mile race. It was like kind of all kinds of different elements. You're in the sand. Next thing you know, you're like up in these big rocky hills going max like 10 miles an hour through it. It was a crazy race. It was definitely fun and a cool experience, but it was really hard. And the weather was not cooperating that day. It was super windy. And then it got cold and rainy. And so I was just freezing, like wanted to come in after my first lap. And
you said it was 90 minutes?
It was 90 miles.
90 miles. Okay.
Sorry, I've said minutes. 90 miles. It took me about
It took me 4 hours to complete it.
Like 4.5 hours.
The fastest guys, like the pro guys that were riding it, they finished in a little over 2.
Gotcha.
Dang.
But
yeah, they're flying.
River was fairly beginner, and it was such a long race, and just when he came in, we were just happy to have him come back. He was just like, that was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Yeah, that was a rough race.
Yeah, you'd have to pit 3 times?
I think
I only pitted twice. We had a pretty big tank on it.
Gotcha.
And normally like 90 miles, you can go about that. You can go about 90 miles before you have to fill it up again.
Well,
and I wasn't going
once,
that. Yeah. And what took me so long with that race is that it had slow sections in it. So it had wide open sections, and then it'd get up to these rocky hills with streams and creeks and all kinds of stuff. And it was just like 10 miles an hour all through it. You're like, they had mile markers that would show you like every 5 miles. And like when I went past my first lap, I was just seeing 5 miles all the time. And I was like, okay, this race is going to be pretty quick. This is not going to be too bad. And then I go on my second lap and I start seeing them, but I'm like, okay, so this is going to be about like 15 miles or something like that. Cause, they'd actually show it like every 10 or something like that. I can't remember, but, it's just kind of random. They'd show you signs at random times. I'm like, okay, this has got to be at least, I've done another like 15 miles or something like that. And it'd be only like 5. And it was so disappointing. I just felt like I was on the bike forever. But yeah.
What's been your favorite, your most memorable motocross race so far?
I don't know. That's a hard question because I've loved all the races really at Mesquite. I mean,
nothing really stands out.
I mean, honestly, just this year. I mean, I've started this year off hot. I mean, all last year finishing like middle pack, 20th and lower in my classes, and now starting up this year finishing top 5 every time.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's always exciting.
Yeah.
Especially like when I started doing the RMX series more regularly, I'd be in like the top 10 and stuff. But when I'd get in the top 5, I'd be so excited because there's so many fast kids and I was like just beginning. So then when I get like my 5th place trophy, I'd be so excited. So, because it was like a big accomplishment for me. Because like sometimes I've only been racing for like barely under a year or just a year. And all these other kids have been like racing for like 4 or 3 years. So it was a really big accomplishment.
Yeah, you've done a lot at your young age of 12.
Yeah.
So, River, tell us about what you do off the bike. What's and maybe Todd, you can fill us in too. Like what do off bike days look like for you?
Well, like training wise, I'll try to go to the gym, and
you don't have to give us any trade secrets, but just in general,
No secrets.
no secrets here.
I can tell you what the plan is and what we're gonna do. and then River can tell you what he is going to,
Oh,
he
boy.
does, because they're not the same. But the idea is where River can, since he's still in high school, he really can only get down to Mesquite once a week,
Right.
at the most, to train. And so he'll go down and do 1 day of training, but that's just not enough. But I told him, I said, if you want to move next level, you've got to do something different.
Yeah.
And so what we've decided we looked at it and we said, okay, the things you can improve here at home without going to the track are you can have your cardiovascular fitness top shape so you're never tired at the end of a moto, or when you have the long motos, you're there. So you can get that by going to the gym, doing that different ways, doing some HIIT training things.
Right.
And then the other is the strength, because his size, strength's a big thing in handling that bike.
Sure.
And so he can do those two things. He could really work on those. He can ride a little bit here, but not much in the winter. There's just really no good place.
Right.
And so the idea is that the days he's not training in Mesquite, he'll hit the gym hard. He can tell you how much he goes. So I'll let him hold that secret out for you.
I don't know. I've been off and on with injury and sickness like over and over during this winter. Like it's been rough. Like it's been week after week. I'll start to get better from an injury, get sick, and I'm like
Been sick a lot
Same
too.
with
Yeah.
me.
yeah. I've been trying. It's not like I don't mind to go to the gym. It's not a it's not a big motivational thing for me. I mean, I just go and put in the work. I mean, it's all for the end goal.
Right.
But it's if I don't feel well, I'm hard to get to go if I don't feel well. Like obviously I'll push through pain and sickness if I really, really have to. But if it's like something about like, oh, go into the gym, if I don't feel well, I'm not going.
River, what's your ultimate dream in motocross?
Go pro. I mean,
And what does that mean? So, like, walk us through. We hear kids say that a lot, but like, what really does that mean to you? Because anybody can really go pro. You get your pro card, right? But what are you really saying?
like, get on TV.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's what he says too. And when he says he wants to go pro, I'm always like, define that. And I think that's an important distinction. I don't know about you, but like, define that, because there's pros.
Yeah.
And then there's pros.
Yeah, he's trained with some pros. I mean, and then there's some pros that make money. They make their living off of riding the bike, and they're different.
Yeah.
What do you figure, Todd, that how many of the top riders actually make real money?
Oh, in motocross, and well, if you took it across all of the desert racing and everything,
None.
motocross is the best. Supercross is the best for sure for making money, but gosh, I'm betting the top 1%. I don't know. I've never looked at it and seen a fact, but if you think about how few of those guys actually get to race the main event and how many of those finish in the top and actually make money compared to all the kids we see at every track, man, it's a small percent of.
I'll bet it kind of lines up with the qualifiers. I'll bet it's like the top 10,
Yeah.
in my opinion, and probably like the top, 5 really make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Super good money.
those top guys, the Lawrences and Sexton, they make some serious money.
Yeah,
You've seen
those
it.
guys do. Yeah.
They're making some serious money, but they're the Tiger Woods of motocross.
Sure.
So they're making big money. The rest of us are paying for them we watch it on TV and we go to the track and we race and buy other bikes that they promo, and that's how they make their money. It's, so hopefully that's one of the things we're teaching River through this, is that the reality of it is that it's pretty hard to go pro.
I have that as like a dream goal, and then like a reasonable goal is to at least get as fast as I can to, be like local pro,
Right.
So still fast. I mean, but a reasonable goal is that.
Cool.
Todd, how do you balance being a coach and a dad on race days?
Ooh,
Good question.
It's a very good question, Logan. I slip back and forth between them each day, and depends on how the moto turns out. I lose the dad and turn into coach.
Yeah.
River can test. I don't know. I try to keep it in perspective and stuff, but when I feel like I'm putting as much effort as River is, but just not the physically riding. So I live with River when he goes on the track.
Yeah.
Because I've put a ton of work. I'm his mechanic. I prep the bike. I totally try and get him prepped and ready to race. And so if he goes out there and doesn't do well, I feel like I don't do well.
Yeah.
And I don't really have control of that. So I kind of lose it on that a little bit. And there's been times when I've lost it. I've tried to learn more to stay out of it. River and I are way different personalities. I'm a type A and River's absolutely not. But he never gets real stressed out. He never gets worked up at the line. Nothing ever stresses him out. And so I've had to kind of learn to let him do his thing. And honestly, with coaching, I don't know anything about motocross as far as like to tell him, well, you need to take this route this way or whatever.
Yeah, he'll tell me lines like to try. Like if he sees a line that other like fast kids are taking, that looks faster, he'll say, "Oh, try this line. It might be a little better."
Yeah, I watch those fast guys.
That's kind of where I'm at too. You can spot it sometimes, but yeah, I'm certainly in no position to give my kid major advice either. I don't ride at that level. He could blow my doors off, so it's a little bit difficult. But sometimes you'll spot a line and like that seems like those guys are whipping you right there. You need to maybe think about taking that line or something. Yeah.
I always try and watch the A class races, the A and the B class races, and just see how they're hitting certain corners and how they're, which lines they're taking, if they're staying all inside or if they're taking some fast outsides. And then I'll say to River, hey, so, Grayson Townsend's taking this line and he thinks it's the fastest. So you might want to try it out there.
Right.
But that's about as much coaching as I get. The rest of it's all dad. So like
I always describe it as like wearing hats. I wear a lot of hats. I own a business and I make the money to pay for it. So I'm the financier and I'm his mechanic and I'm his coach and I'm his dad. And on race days, sometimes you're taking off all these hats and putting on a different one. And sometimes it is a fine line to walk, I feel like the one that really brings out the part of me that I don't like is the financial, the paying for it all, because at the end of the day, when you've worked all week to make the money to put food on the table, but also pay for all the gear and the bikes and the maintenance and the entry fees and the gas to get to and from the track and the parts and then you get there and then you watch your kid, turning in a just kind of cruising,
slow lap time.
Well, just not turning in your best effort. I don't really care about results. I think most dads are pretty level-headed about that. I think most dads don't really care about results, but they know when their kid is giving their best effort. And I think when you've clearly given your best effort to make it all happen, and then you're watching your kid just kind of la-da-da, the financier, I think, in me is the one that comes out and goes, what am I getting for my investment? And I think that's the one that brings out the part of me that I have to check. But, cause I don't know about you, but I know if I put too much pressure on Logan, he and I'm sure you guys have a shorthand. Logan and I feel like have a shorthand, and he's always expressed to me, I need a certain amount of pressure from you, Dad. Don't just hands off and don't say nothing. I do need you to be tough on me, and I'm always checking with him, you still want me to do that? And he's like, yeah. What do you say?
Yeah.
But it's a difficult balance to know where that line is. How is it with you guys?
How do you still want me when I get mad at you?
I don't think I have to tell you. It just doesn't matter what I say. It just happens. So we find the line every time. So
yeah, I've never really asked her, hey, you still want me to be tough on you? But as you know, there's been one weekend when I said I'm not going.
Right.
Because I felt that the effort was not what I thought was where it should be. And so I said, I'm not going to the race this weekend. And I didn't go. And he went down there with his mom. And how were your results, River?
Well, I had one bad one, but
you had one good one out of all the motos that you ran. You had one good moto.
I thought it was opposite. I thought I had all good ones except for one. And it was one that it was I was trying to do a bunch of things that little things at the line that I was should have been doing beforehand. There was just little things like that. I had to blow my nose real quick, and so I hurried and blew my nose and drank some water and stuff like that. And by the time it was it was time to ready to go, and I'm like still trying to put on my gloves at the
I
line.
remember watching that.
Still trying to get this glove on, and it would not go on. I'm like, crap. So the gate drops, and I get on this glove and hurry and go off. But
Yeah, I've had people ask me, what happened to River on that race? I'm like, I wasn't there. But, well, it's different because I want to be at the line early. That's what makes me not have any jitters, is being at the line early and 100% prepared, and I know there's nothing left to chance.
Absolutely.
River, he just wants to show up at the last minute and just be there. If he sits there too long, he doesn't like that.
Yeah.
So he wants to be at the line.
It's a long time. I mean, you're just, it gets.
Yeah, I feel like if I just sit there for too long, I'm losing all my warmth and prep for, to race. Like I'll get on a bike and, get myself warmed up and completely ready. And then, he's wanting me to head over 10 minutes early. I'm like, no, I'm going to leave it like the last second I can. That way I'm on that line. And by the time the race starts, I'm still somewhat warm and I still have some of that,
confidence.
Yeah.
Same with me. Sometimes, like, I'm at the line and then I'm seeing all these guys pull up. I'm like, this might be a bad moto, but.
Well, and sometimes, you're just there for so long. Sometimes, especially on those long race days, the later motos, Logan would be, and, many of the other kids up and down the line would be slouching over and put their head down on their bars. It's difficult you're tired and you want to just kind of relax. But, Eric Reed gave me some good advice one day. He saw Logan hanging over the bars like that, and he elbowed me and he goes, hey, don't let him do that because he's going to get even more tired. Like, make him sit up. And so now I always, hey, sit up. I've always admired, though, like when, dads that do that, whatever happened between you and River that day that made you go, you know what? I'm going fishing. Good luck.
I did.
Whatever happened, I've always admired that because I've always told Logan I'm going to do that. But at the end of the day, I think that financier in me takes over, and I'm like, I have worked all week to pay for this. There's no way I'm just gonna not cash in on the race fees that we've already bought, and we're gonna go.
It's a hard thing. I do it pretty well. My wife's, she threatens but never really carries through. But if River knows,
she's a pushover.
River knows if I tell him that I'm not going, well, I'm not going. Even if I want to go, which I did want to go that day, and he had lots of motos that day, and I wanted to be there. But I was like, I've told you already, if you can't be ready and do it the way I think you need to, then I'm out.
Right.
And so I checked out. But it's been good.
Did you catch any good fish that day?
I did, yeah.
Nice.
In fact, I sent a couple pictures to him just to make sure they knew. No, it's all good. Everybody's a little different. River and I just happen to be different personality types. And so he actually is really similar to my wife in personality. So it's best when we're both there because when I get high stressed, like I get River up and say, hey, you need to be up hour and a half before your first moto and race at least, and then ready to go. And then when he just lays in the bed or listens to his music or watches his phone and just lays there, I kind of lose it. And so lately I've just kind of walk away and tell my wife, hey, can you handle this part of it? Because I can't do this part.
Right.
But it works.
I'm always on time.
Yeah, we've made it work.
Well, you guys are doing a dang good job. As evidenced by where you are and what you're doing right now. So, whatever you guys are doing, and I can see the determination, on all of you.
Yeah.
You're all. It looks like you're all in, and it's showing. So good on you.
Thanks, yeah.
I know we've been there at one point where it was the grind as much as we could do it, and I'm watching you guys do it, and it's paying off the same way. So good for you.
Yeah,
awesome. That's
what keeps you going is this. You see the progress.
Yeah, the results are what push me to keep going. This sport. If you push so much at it, if you commit to a sport like this, and push and push and push and push, eventually it's just you get burned out. But the results are what keep you there.
Yeah. What are your big goals for this year? You guys have any big races you want to hit or accomplishments?
Loretta's.
Yeah,
I don't want to just qualify for Loretta's qualifying and going in there placing 20th. That's not what I want to do. I want to go there and do good, place top 5 if I can.
How will you measure that? How do you, since you're not there, you know, and you won't really know until you get there what everybody else in the country is doing? How do you think you're going to gauge that?
I'd say mainly if I'm like I'm not gonna go if I'm only gonna qualify. Like if I'm barely qualifying, you know, in the regional qualifier, I think that's what it'd be, right? Because you'll have the local qualifier at the track, and then you'll have the regional one.
Yeah, you have the area where I believe it's the top 12. I think it's 12, and then the regional I believe is the top 4.
Yeah.
So
we decided that if
So what is just barely like making number 4?
Maybe if it's the first one you went to, if you went to the first one that they had, they're like the ones in our region are like 3 weeks in a row.
Right.
So if you wanted to hit all 3, you could technically the top 4 of each guy would probably drop out. You know, so the first one 4 guys are gone. They're probably not going to be at the second ones.
Make sure you choke up on the mic.
So we just kind of looked at it and said, you know what, if you end up having to go to all 3 of them to qualify, probably not going to do well at Reds.
Yeah.
If you go to your first one and you are number 4, and there's only 3 guys above you, you might be pretty good. You might, you know, it still gives you opportunity to work. But if you like, was a super fast kid at the track last year who was in B class, and I was surprised he didn't qualify, but he ended up chasing 3 or 4 to qualify, and he finally qualified. But then they just bowed out because he's like, well, that's
crew?
Yeah. So the writing's on the wall.
That's always the way I felt. We always set a 2 qualifier limit. We would try and do, you know, the closest one, and then would pick one other one. So the year Logan qualified, which was 22, we picked Pala, and because we had tried there the year prior, and so we did the Fox Raceway one, and it never goes good for us, and it didn't.
No.
And then we picked Delta, which was awesome. That was the first time we'd seen him since Logan started racing do Delta as a qualifier.
And that was a regional qualifier.
That was a regional qualifier.
I didn't know there'd ever been a regional.
And that was awesome. And I was thinking to myself, I'm like, if we can't get it done there, we have absolutely no business. You know, because we're very familiar with that track. If we can't qualify on our home turf, there's no way. And in the end, it was slim. I mean, Logan only qualified in one class.
I got 3rd.
And so I was like, to me, I kind of felt like, well, the writing's on the wall. Just as you said, I was like, I can't imagine we're going to do great because we couldn't pull it off in 2 classes. But at the end of the day, I ended up kind of telling myself, well, I don't know if this will ever come around again. And at this point, I don't know, you know, because since then he's taken a break and we're kind of back into it, but we're not like majorly serious. And so that might be a one-off thing. And I'm glad that we did end up doing it. It was an experience, and it is one of those things that all these kids want to do. And to be honest, if you do get the chance, I guess my perspective, and I, you know, this is just my opinion, so it's just only worth a couple of cents, but, you know, maybe take it because it is a real eye-opener too. Like we had I think we thought we had a concept, but I don't think we really did until we got there. And it was like, okay. And now when I look at it, I'm like, there's no way we would ever do it unless Logan was hitting firsts at them, you know, the West Coast qualifiers and stuff, you know, because we out here mostly only see this 1/3 of the country. You know, we see some guys, you know, from the Pacific Northwest, and we see them from the West Coast, and maybe once in a while you get somebody from New Mexico, but there's some dang fast kids. Texas, I mean, out Midwest, I mean, it's unbelievable, you know, and you just don't, you see names you never even really heard of, but you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea there was this many fast kids.
Yeah. We've talked about that in the goal of Loretta's, because I mean, in my perspective, there's 2 reasons you go. One is just say, hey, I went. Doesn't really matter how I did. It was the experience, and we went and we did it. Yeah. So you can say you did it, or you can say, no, I want to go there and I want to be like competitive in it. Yeah. You know, and I've seen and talked to people who have done both, and you know, I've kind of left it to River. My perspective would be like, hey, I'm going to go do divisional, and or the regional, and if I don't do that well, I still qualified. I could have gone, but it's a big expense. I'm probably going to step out.
Yep.
But his mom and River more like, well, I don't know if we make it. You know, if we have to go to 2 of them, we just barely skimp in on that, get the 4th place in the second one. We still get to go. So, and it's fun. And we go to Tennessee and have do all that whole thing. And there's both sides and I see it both, but I've heard it's pretty expensive to do it. So I don't know.
It is, but I think that the biggest expense is actually the chasing
to get there.
I mean, it depends on what you do. We made the decision to buy 2 brand new bikes in the lead up to it, and I think we actually bought those bikes before the regional qualifier because it just looked to us like Logan was just on that Loretta's path. And so we're like, well, we better snag some bikes because this was like post-COVID era where there were still a lot of shortages. And we're like, well, we're going to grab a couple of bikes when we can. So we spent a lot of money on the bikes and then traveling out to California to try and qualify and, and then the training, we did the RMX, what is it, the July training or whatever they do, the 1 month, which is expensive.
Preston, yeah.
So I think it was like all the peripheral stuff. I mean, the race and the trip to Tennessee. I mean, you guys probably go to Tennessee once in a while, don't you?
Kentucky.
Yeah. So it's probably not that big a deal. I don't feel like the trip was crazy expensive, but just kind of the lead up to it. So you have to kind of look at everything. And I know that we were probably in the like $20,000 range by the time you figure in the bikes and everything else, So in that respect it is, but yeah.
River, Todd, this one's kind of for both of you. What's one lesson that motocross has taught you in life?
You have to push for what you want, and you can't just sit around and expect for these things to happen. You have to work for it.
Yeah, I agree.
What do you think, Dad? What's one thing that you look at River now after being in motocross? What is one thing that you think you've seen a quality River like really develop?
And this is something I'd hoped he'd develop, and I'm seeing it some in him, is that he recognizes that to go upper level to any gain at the top end of any sport or anything you do in life is really hard work. That last little bit to get you to the top is really hard. Mm-hmm. And I think he's seen that. He's seeing it now that, we've been at only 2 years, but the first year and a half was just gains like every week. But now it's like, you got to do lots of work to get that next one position up or beat that one kid that's just been ahead of you. And so he's learned that's, I think I talked to you earlier about that. I'm just like, I'm trying to raise a good kid and turn a young boy into a man. And the fact that he loves motocross, that's just something we're using to do that. And so I think that's what I'm hoping to get out of it. I don't really care if he goes to Loretta's. I want him to for his reason, but it doesn't make him any different in my eyes if he goes to Loretta's. But what I do want him to know is that he can do pretty much anything he wants in life if you're willing to put the work in. And I really believe that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I don't think that there is a better vehicle to build a young man than motocross. It is an extreme sport. It's an extreme thing, and they have to be tough, and motocross kids have to have just an amazing amount of grit.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. No fear.
Unlike anything else in my opinion. Yeah. And if you can do it at that kind of level, it's going to make everything else in your life seem very manageable, because you're literally, I hate to say it because it sounds kind of dark, but these kids are like literally facing death every time they go out on a track and they race that fast and they jump those jumps and they know it and we know it. And you're never going to face anything like that in your job.
Hope not.
You're raising a family. You're just not going to, it's everything else is going to get the volume turned down a little bit. And so I can definitely respect that. I think motocross is definitely a good vehicle to instill the values of hard work and grit like nothing else.
And that's what we've learned. That's what I hope he's learned, and I think he's learning it for sure.
Yeah, and motocross is like, it's by far, like I go to school and stuff and see all these kids play football and stuff, and they say it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's honestly,
our previous guests were expressing that, saying, I'm glad it's not just Logan that gets that garbage at school.
the thing is like, you know, I'm not saying football's not hard. I've
But you play football, right?
I haven't played football.
Oh, I thought I'd seen on your Facebook page.
No, I've never played football, but I have done wrestling, and props to those kids. The wrestling's hard.
Wrestling's hard.
It's hard work. It's no joke. It's right there with motocross, I would say.
Yeah.
But the main difference between wrestling and motocross is, with motocross, you have to have yourself, it's self-motivation completely. If you get better, it's on you. You don't have a coach telling you, oh, show up to practice. And there's not like a hosted practice. You don't have a practice to go to. It's just like, well, you gotta make time for it, and you gotta push yourself. You gotta put in the work to get better. You're not gonna get better, by anybody else. I mean, at my age, I have my dad to help me a little, so I have somewhat of a coach, but still, I'm going to the gym by myself. I can choose whether I go there and really work hard, or I can sit around, and put in half work. But,
this is for you both. What's one piece of advice that you would give anybody looking to get into racing?
I would say it's not about like the kids or anything getting into racing. I would say it's the parents. I mean, sure, these kids are like, they want to race, and they like dirt bikes, they want to race. But a lot of the time it's parents holding them back, like, no, I don't want you getting that. It's too dangerous. Holding them back from doing something that's dangerous. But I think what my mom has said that she's learned is like, let your kids do something dangerous safely.
Yeah, I think Jordan Peterson, that's a famous quote from him. And he'd made that quote after Logan had started racing. I believe, at least I heard it later, and I latched onto it. I was like, yeah, that was well said. I remember when Logan, he was riding dirt bikes, and we were watching YouTubes, we were watching FMX, and we were watching Nitro Circus, and we were watching some racing, and he was like, that right there, that's what I want to do. And I was like, what?
Yeah,
You're nuts. And I mean, my wife and I both were like, they don't even do that for kids your age. And sure enough, they do. And it took us us a few months to kind of wrap our heads around that. But yeah, I think, you're right. Parents have to kind of let go. There's definitely some family members we have that are a little bit like, why are you doing that? That's crazy, but I can't explain it. I certainly, and I'm sure Todd feels the same. Obviously, there's no way we want you guys to get hurt by any means, but we have to trust. That's one of the things I like about motocross, and especially RMX, is it's organized, it's structured. They split your practices. We get you the best gear we can get. We have you train with Riley and Grassroots or whoever, and at the end of the day, we give you the best equipment and everything we can give you, and then the rest is, we have to just kind of let go, I think, right?
Yeah, you just got to trust it. The thing I'd say to if you're a parent and you've got a kid that wants to do maybe motocross or some other extreme sport or something like that, you really need to make it a family sport, because it can't be just River goes and races, because he will be unsuccessful there. But so it really needs to be everybody buys in. So that includes, for River, his sister and his other brother. They come, show up at the races. They'll bring their kids. We all support him in the race, and it's up to him to race. But when he has all that support behind him, he knows, I can be successful at this.
Right.
And make it a family thing. If you can't make it a family thing, I just don't think it's going to work.
Motocross has taught me a lot of lessons too. Like at the gate, it's taught me like patience and like to try and calm my nerves, because in wrestling, I'd get sometimes so nervous. Like at the final championship when I used to do wrestling, I got so nervous that I just freaked out. And then this kid just took me down, and I was just crying because I just locked up. but motocross has taught me a lot of patience. Drills, like keep working at it, then you'll get better. Don't like say, oh, this kid's always going to be better than me. Just go out there, train, and then soon you'll start beating them. So
Yeah.
Definitely has given him a sense of confidence when he quit racing there for a while and got into jiu-jitsu. He was phenomenal at it.
Yeah. I used to follow him on
And
Instagram. I was like, holy cow, this kid can do everything.
And I think that his coaches were just like, oh, he's just naturally talented. And, they didn't seem to understand. People that don't ride a dirt bike or especially race, they don't understand the physicality of these kids, I mean, to hold on to a machine that's literally trying to get itself out from under you, because of the power, and you're managing it by squeezing it with your knees and your feet and,
yeah,
your lats and managing that thing while going through ruts and jumps. And like, they don't understand, like grabbing a hold of another kid, seems pretty manageable when you consider they're on that machine,
Yeah, so. That's for sure. Yeah, it's been a good sport for us. River went through the gamut of the sports. He played basketball and baseball and wrestled and not that he didn't like them, but this one's he was just passionate enough about that riding thing. I don't know, because I don't get the thrill that he does, but I think it must be an adrenaline thing for him.
Yeah,
those kids that seek that. For me, when I got a bike, when he started riding a bit and I went and wrecked, I'm like, oh, I'm done. I'm out of here. River gets wrecked in a bad wreck, and I'm like, you had enough? He's like, oh, I'm going back.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is, because, I think when I show him the pictures of his cracked helmet, and Logan's had the same thing, and bleeding and knocked out, and maybe, I don't know. I think I just say, I'm good.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, he's had... I would have stopped with one crash.
Yeah,
I would have been like, that's it for me. I'm done. But yeah, these kids, they crash, they hop up, they stand up their bike, and they get going. And it's
amazing. It is. I have a lot of respect for all those motocrossers.
Heck yeah. Well, guys, that's probably about all the time we have. It's been a great conversation. We sure appreciate having you guys come in and chat with us.
It's good. I'm glad this is up and going. It'd be a fun thing.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it. Do you guys have any
afterthoughts?
Sponsors you want to thank? Family members? Shout outs you want to give before we close it out?
We don't have any sponsors. We just
sponsor
us. We're sponsorless.
No sponsors?
I'm zero.
Anybody's listening out there that's looking for somebody to sponsor?
There you
Sponsor
go.
these guys.
There you go.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Pulsifers who got us into it, because we were just so, but they kind of took us under their wing and showed us the whole thing. Like they showed us how to go sign up at race day and how to know and put which races you want to be to, and just I didn't know anything about bikes, and he helped us learn how to get bikes, fix them, and without that first year of that, I mean, I was calling Kyle like every day. He was probably so sick of me calling him, but they were just great for us, and so I appreciate them, and hopefully someday we'll do it for somebody else that wants to do it.
It is nice to have somebody that will kind of take you under their wing and show you the ropes a little bit.
There's so much to learn that people just don't understand about this sport.
That's true.
It's huge. So.
Well, again, guys, we appreciate it, and thank you for having me on as your co-host again.
Yep. Well, thank you guys for joining us in the Holeshot Hustle. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Thanks.
Thanks.